Good afternoon. Welcome to Between Two Teapots. We are here today with Pedro of O5T. What's going on, man?
Life's good, sir. How's everything over there?
It's started off rainy today, but it is quite nice and sunny now in the afternoon. Guys in the chat, let me know if there's any issues with audio or anything like that. And post in the chat if you're drinking something. Let us know what you're drinking. We're going to be drinking fermented teas. So we're starting off with some shou pu'er and moving into some Japanese fermented tea. Actually, what's the iced tea you got there? What you want to tell us about your iced tea? What do you got? What are you drinking?
Yeah, that's some agua pancha. So
okay.
Agua pancha is. I thought I would bring a couple of things that might be different because if there's something that you have a lot of, it's pu'er.
Yes.
So that's awesome. But I think that a different kind of fermentation could bring some diversity to the table.
Yeah, you guys do a lot of stuff.
A lot of weird things. Yeah. So this was from a place called Tokushima, and instead of fermenting in piles as you do for cooked pu'er, with microorganisms from the Aspergilli family.
Okay.
This is an anaerobic fermentation.
Interesting.
So you get barrels, mostly made with cedar.
Okay.
And you stuff them with tea leaves, and it's a wet environment. But because these barrels have been used for so many generations, they're inoculated with lactobacilli.
Interesting. Okay, so they reuse the same barrels. Gotcha.
Right. And then it makes a bit of a sour tea. So it's a we'll taste it.
Interesting.
It's a different kind of fermentation. We're not using the giant trees from Yunnan. So no. Under the Tropic of Cancer, 2,000-meter high mountains. That's not the case. These are much smaller mountains and much smaller tea trees.
Interesting, yeah.
But it's a really interesting process. Very, very interesting process from farther north.
So our original plan was to drink some of our shou pu'er together, but COVID and the postal delivery services have decided to throw a little bit of a wrench into our plans. It has been on the edge of delivery for multiple days now. If you see him looking left, he's thinking he's going to get a knock on the door from the post office, and they may actually bring it in time. So do you want to wait a little bit on this and brew one of yours first?
Why don't we? Why don't we start?
All right.
With
so we'll
else,
do that. We'll do that. So we
we'll
will wait.
Give the postman a chance.
We'll wait on this. We'll give the postman a chance, and are we gonna do the Bata Bata Cha? Are we jumping right into it?
Why don't we start with Bata Bata? And
okay.
let's do two things if you like the idea, because given that we cannot wait 4 hours until we boil it.
Yeah. So
maybe why don't we gong fu some Bata Bata?
Okay.
And then we'll do our best to hillbilly our way to making a.
All right, so we're gonna gong fu it and then whisk the gong fu.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
Bata Bata, open the back piece and let me know what you think.
This is what we got. This is one right here for everybody in the stream. It had we smelled it the other day. Let me see if I remember which one. There was two of them. One
Look
of
at
them.
The leaves. And how ugly and broken they look.
They're big, yeah.
Yeah, they're massive.
So this is not the barrel aged one, right?
No. Well, this is an aerobic fermentation. So the aerobic fermentation process of this tea is very similar to that of Chinese heicha.
There we go. Get that up in the look at big leaves.
Big leaves.
So Gaiwan teapot. What would you suggest?
You know what? If you have a little Yixing that works well for you, I think we should stuff.
I've got a Gen Shui. I got a Gen Shui that I use for shou pu'er. Is that gonna work?
That'll work, man.
That'll work. Okay.
Totally.
All right. And so you actually suggest boiling this one long term, right?
Yeah. So traditionally, what you do is you boil this tea. You have a big fire and there's a giant pot. So this tea is supposed to be it's a community builder.
Okay.
And it was started by the Buddhist people of northwest Japan.
Okay.
This is from a place called Toyama, and it's west of Nagano on the west coast. It's pretty cold. It's one of the northernmost tea production places for in Japan.
Yeah.
And there's only one guy who's keeping the tradition alive. So it's almost disappeared, but there's one guy who's still doing it. They're scrawny little ugly trees because it's far north, and they're which makes them beautiful, right? Yeah, they're really beautiful, but they're scrawny and not lush trees. They're of course organic. There's nothing to throw on these guys. They're harvested in summer, and you harvest not only the leaves but also the branches, everything. You make piles. You ferment it very much in the same way that you would ferment Chinese heicha.
Yep.
And you're supposed to boil it. So these Buddhist guys, they figured out, mostly Jodo Shinsho people, they figured out that in order to create community, you need the fire and drinks. So you make a fire, you make tea, and people come. Right, and I'll tell you the second part of the story afterwards. But why don't we start by stuffing an ishing pot, or
just stuffing it full?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, stuff it. Let's aggressively stuff the pot, because we're not going to have the luxury of boiling it.
Yeah.
Then we might as well just
make it stronger. Yeah.
Right.
So I've read that. So you spent a lot of time working in the with tea people in Japan. I've read that like the median age of the tea worker in Japan is like 80. Is that right?
I think 80 might be a euphemism, but yes,
it's a bit of a stretch. But
I would say they have seen more springs than you and I.
Well, I mean the idea is that like kids aren't really getting into the tea production thing as much, and the aging population of the tea production. I don't know. The worry is that there's not going to be many people for next generations of Japanese tea. What's your experience?
You know, it really depends on where, but yeah, I think that in general that is the case, and in few places it is more true than right here in Yunnan, in Toyama. So the people who work in this factory, everybody's a lady, and it's a really beautiful community because they're mostly elderly people and they take turns cooking. So each one does the cooking for.
Got that pack full. Somebody in chat wanted to know how this compares to Goishi cha.
Goishi cha. It's okay. So Goishi cha is a bit of it's somewhere between awabancha and this guy.
Okay.
So Goishi cha undergoes two fermentations. It goes through first a pile fermentation similar to wodoi, and then it goes through an anaerobic fermentation. So Goishi cha, it's a double fermentation. Awabancha, it's a single anaerobic fermentation, and in this case, Toyama Bata Bata Cha, it's a single aerobic fermentation.
So for people watching that don't understand, anaerobic means with oxygen or without oxygen, right?
So, yeah, roughly. So you know, aerobic fermentation means like pu'er. You make a big pile, but it's a room. It's a room that's warm and moist, and you let the microorganisms do their stuff. Anaerobic means that you get a barrel and there's water in that barrel. There's
roughly it's roughly sealed, right?
It's roughly sealed, exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So that's what makes the difference.
We're using boiling water with this, or are we giving it a rinse?
Boiling water, brother, blast it. And you know what? I would suggest let's not rinse it.
No rinse. Gotcha. All right, let me get the water up a little hotter.
One of them is we don't have ancient trees here, so you know these guys won't have the same punch. I trust these kind ladies from Toyama to be pretty clean ladies. I've shared meals with them and all, and I would say just let's not rinse it.
All right.
Ideally, we would be boiling it. Since we won't be boiling it, why don't we
long steep at boiling water temperature?
Yeah, let's long steep it. Let's leave it there for about a minute.
Okay, sure.
And I would invite you to drink. So let's pour just a little bit in a cup, and let's drink it as is.
Okay.
But here's the other part, and this is what I think might actually be really interesting. As soon as I receive my Mong Hai tea from you guys.
Yeah.
Toyama Bata Bata Cha, it's meant to be consumed in larger amounts. So it's consumed in as we brought in this kind of chawan. It is called a gorohachi chawan.
Okay.
And this thing, which we're going to use, it's called a meoto chasen. Meoto means married, because as you can see, there are two chasen.
Yeah, yours has two, right?
Right. It's very similar to the chasen that people used in China in the latter part of the Song dynasty. So So in the early part of the Song Dynasty, as I understand it, chasen were looked a bit more like little brooms.
Yeah.
And as they evolved, they became cylindric and became more like this. So in the latter song, there's some references of chasen looking like this.
Gotcha.
Right?
So should I be drinking it in Genjan then?
No. Let's
Okay.
so getting
All right.
in our northern Japanese mindset again with Buddhists.
Yes. Yeah.
To create community, number one, you need fire. So
Yep.
you build a fire. Number two, you need tea. Perfect. We have
Fire and tea.
big pot with tea. Number three, we need to create a bit of a game. You know, if you and I go to the Buddhist monk and you get your cup of tea and I get my cup of tea, just like we sometimes do in North America, you know, you get your coffee, I get my coffee, we both bug off and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
However, if we create a bit of a game, it's way more interesting.
Okay.
So what these guys did was they came up with this.
Gotcha.
You whisk the tea. So as once your tea is strong enough, those guys sometimes add a pinch of salt and then you whisk it. As you whisk it, you create froth. And it becomes almost like a game. So you make your froth, I make my froth, Lamu makes her froth, and you know Lamu does it better than both of us, and she said, hey, I won. So it also builds a bit of a community. And as you whisk, you get a lot of air in the tea. You change the texture.
Right.
I have found that that's a really interesting thing to do sometimes with pu'er. So if you're in the mindset of cha instead of pink cha, you know you're going to be drinking a larger bowl or grandpa styling something. I find that it's sometimes really cool to just whisk it and create froth.
We'll have to try that.
And yeah. I, as soon as I receive your tea, that's what I'm going to do.
Nice. Okay, so you're gonna whisk that one. All right. So I'm good with this. I'm gonna probably. I don't need a fairness cup because I'm pouring it straight into my bowl here.
You don't need a fairness cup. Maybe just try it first. First, try a little bit in your pot. I'd like you to try it without whisking. Just check it out. Like I said, the process is fairly similar to that of Chinese dark teas, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this one.
Well, it's got a lot of the aromas are similar, which is nice. It's lighter than I thought it would have been, considering how long we steeped it.
How long we steeped it? Totally. This is no ancient tree, no intense gan or anything.
Yeah, it's got a lot of the.
Very pleasant.
No, it is very pleasant. It's got a lot of the same earthiness to it that you would expect from something like that. But yeah, it is. It's pleasant. It's a little bit more, brighter than I had been expecting.
I by oversteeping like this or boiling, I would expect a certain amount of bitterness.
Yeah.
And that's exactly not what I get. I see why these guys, after a few hundred years, they decided to just boil it because And when the level is low, they just bring more water and boil it again and keep it boiling for a while. So it's meant to be a pleasantry afternoon tea. It's not really high in caffeine or anything, so it works pretty well. This is not traditional, but by the way, if you ice it afterwards, it's also super easy to drink.
I'll have to give that a try.
Check it out.
So
let's put the rest of our tea now in our
good. I got it.
In our chawan.
I got it in my chawan.
Right. There is one thing that I have as an advantage because of the geometry of my chawan. So Gorohachi chawan, again, a bit more similar to older school Chinese bowls.
Yeah.
They're higher.
Yeah.
See? So when
this is about the highest. This is about the highest I could find. One of Lamu's rice bowls.
It'll work, brother.
All right.
It'll work. This is from a place where people don't take it too seriously. It's not meant to be a school or a ceremony. It's just meant to be a bit of a friendly competition between friends.
Yeah.
And enjoying your tea.
So how do you win though? What's the most froth?
Right, better froth, cooler froth, whoever can get a shave, like that's pretty much it.
All right, well, show me how you do this.
Just in this case, I just see like this. It's called Bata Bata Cha because as you whisk, you smash it against the bowl, and the sound is similar to Bata 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 Bata.
The Japanese love making onomatopoeia things. I love.
They do.
It's one of the things that really fascinates me about the Japanese language. I've spent a decent amount of time in Japan as well. I studied Japanese in college. Ironically, then I married a Chinese girl.
Absolutely.
Don't speak any Chinese.
So that's my froth.
Oh yeah, you beat me. I'm still getting there.
Well, I cheated also. I didn't give you one of the Meoto Chasen, but
yeah.
But that looks good, man. So
right.
so just think about the amount of
when it's not circular. It's just back and forth.
Just there is no way. I do it back and forth because then it's a bit more violent. It bangs against the walls and it makes better bata bata sound.
It's kind of funny if people are just tuning in right now. Like I thought we came in to watch them drink pu'er tea.
That's exactly what it is. Well, it is kind of.
I'm teasing. I just think it might be surprising. I just saw Kupuntu just logged in. Kupuntu is he runs the tea Discord. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's pretty popular. But
nope.
Nice.
But I mean,
welcome Kupuntu.
Yeah, try it out. Tell me if you think that anything has changed. Texture, flavor.
I like the bubbles in the top. I do. That's kind of fun. It's I don't know. Maybe tastes sweeter. I don't know. Should I be steeping up another one of these? Should I get the?
When do we do it? Yeah.
Should I keep that going?
A few out of it, but I after going to Toyama, I just found this concept of whisking it fascinating. So I've been doing it with Tibetan dark tea. I've been doing it with
so you've just been whisking everything.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I've done like the Japanese, or been a part of some of the different Japanese, like tea ceremonies and stuff where they do whisking things. But I've never actually whisked myself. So.
Yeah, it's different, and I do believe it brings a bit of a fun. Different texture and different flavor. It brings a lot of oxygen in there. So just think about when you're in Sichuan and they're throwing water from 3 meters away, and you think how much oxygen goes in that water.
Do you think Do you think the oxygenation changes the pH of the water?
I don't know about the pH or if it's enough to change the pH. But
we had a couple two guys from the Tea Discord, Max and Arby, on for a stream about a month or so back, and they do they experiment with water, custom crafted water, starting with like distilled water and working it down, adding specifically the individual elements, and they noticed when they pour water from a height. That it actually significantly changes the pH of the water. So if they test the pH of the water before, and then they pour the same water from a height, the pH of it has actually changed. And I thought that was interesting. I thought it may do something similar to this.
Yeah, well, I guess it does. It's doing exactly the same thing. It's just putting more oxygen in there. Now, what I would believe is if we were doing this with green tea, and you stuff a crazy amount of oxygen in there, you would think that it would speed up the oxidization process of your tea. If you leave your green tea for a couple of hours, then it's yellow. I think that would be faster if you either pour your water from far above or whisk it like crazy.
So Max is actually in the chat right now. So Max, you'll have to get yourself a whisk and report back to us. Do some experiments. See if just whisking water if it changes the pH of tea. It's really fascinating to me how much as people in the West get more and more into tea and learning more about like traditional teas and things like this, how they're bringing scientific analysis into it. Because I don't know. I'm just a curious guy. I just want to know how things work, and it's interesting because in China and Japan they've been doing it for 1,000 years, and so they know why they're doing it. They don't have to sit there and study it. But like in the West, we still don't know, and so we kind of approach it from definitely from a learning perspective, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely, yeah. It's more from an ignorant person's standpoint, man. At least
We're
on my
there.
side, because I can say that my grandfather taught me how to drink tea because that was not what the guy drank.
So what is your history with tea? Tell us how that got into it. You said your grandfather was drinking it?
No.
He wasn't. Gotcha.
No,
okay.
He wasn't. No. He drank everything else. Yeah, he was a very serious gentleman and traveler and all that stuff. So part of my my affinity for travel and learning comes from that guy.
Okay.
But no, I was working in China. I was working in Guangzhou in
Okay.
2007 and 2008. And I had been traveling to China for the previous like 4 or 5 years, and I just became fascinated. Living in China, one of my best friends was my driver, Mr. Fang, and his wife was from Chaozhou.
Okay.
So one day the guy said, "Hey, do you want to see some Phoenix tea?" And I said, "Yeah, check out some Phoenix tea."
Sure.
And up in the mountain, as you know, as you've seen with your own family over there,
Yeah.
tea is different. It's not what we think about in the West. So for me, tea in the West was always about a lot of protocol, and it had to do with sugar cubes and silver spoons, and
Yeah.
I respect it. It was
Proper
just not.
tea.
Yeah, and it was never really attractive. It was way too systematized potentially, which ironically is one of the things that I now like about tea, but it was just not attractive.
Yeah.
And in Phoenix Mountain, it was different. It was a bunch of old people just getting some leaves and making a fire and probably grilling something and drinking tea. And it was the opposite of stuffy. It was just natural, and the tea tasted phenomenal. Not because they were adding anything to the tea. It was great just because that's how the tea grew.
Yeah.
So I became fascinated and started traveling to Yunnan and Fujian and Changxing and Zhejiang and
Yeah, so you actually spend you've spent many years traveling through a lot of the same places that we get to. Well, we only generally get to the Yunnan area, but you
yeah.
I mean you spend time in well, tell us all the places that you go to find tea.
A bit more diverse. I not having family anywhere in China in particular. I've been fortunate to just make friends in other places.
Yeah.
I think I have some pretty good friends in the Wuyi Mountain region.
Okay.
Which got me into drinking rock teas.
Yeah.
I have a very, very close friend, extremely generous person in Changxing.
Okay.
Very close to the tea saint Lu Yu.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where that guy lived and worked and had his factory.
Okay.
And this is a lady, very cultured individual. She's trying to recreate tea from back in the Tang Dynasty. So she makes these super cool little session cakes.
Okay.
Which are meant to be roasted and boiled as they did in the Tang Dynasty. She's also farming. She's got a few acres of land between two mountains.
Nice.
And she's got some old cultivar sessions and Anji Bai Cha. So I think she's been a phenomenal mentor to me. I also have some really good friends in Yunnan. The first time I went to Yunnan, I thought it was. So I'm Mexican, and to me, Yunnan was like Oaxaca. You look at the people.
I can totally see that. Yeah, I was going to ask you about what you thought about like your experiences with Mexico and versus how that paralleled with some of the remote areas in Yunnan. So that makes sense.
Same thing, man. Different language, but I've been offered around the mountains in Yunnan. One day they say, "Hey, you wanna try this thing?" And they were some sort of grasshoppers that were roasted.
Yeah.
Which we have in Oaxaca.
Yeah.
And they've given me all kinds of chicken guts and whatever, which again we have in Oaxaca, and chili and one day I don't know if you've ever tried escamoles in Mexico.
It's been a while. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Ant eggs.
Yeah.
So I had some of those also.
Oh, ant eggs. Gotcha. Yeah. No, I don't think I have. Yunnan. They love eating their bugs in Yunnan. Anything bug related. Yeah. So but they don't have beans or cheese. What happened in like
true,
in the history? This is one of the things that I absolutely love Mexican food, and I've gotten Lamo hooked on Mexican food as well.
Nice.
There's just no good Mexican food to be had nearly anywhere in China, which is funny because especially in Yunnan, I think the cuisine would actually work. I mean, I don't know, with like a lot of the spices and some of the like some of the fermented stuff, and every now and then like I'll hear about like some Mexican restaurant in Kunming, and then I get there and it had already closed like a week before we got there. Like there was one that we got to that was actually relatively decent and it was still open, but they were trying to hit like that like super high end market. It was like at the top level of some like fancy restaurant, and and they didn't. Nobody wanted to pay that money for it. So All right, I'm gonna try
They
this.
have some
I'm gonna try this
phenomenal
one
food,
again.
and it's so similar. And honestly,
Yeah.
a lot of the food that I've had in Yunnan, other
Yeah.
than the fact that you're right, there are no beans and no cheese, but other than that, it's just Mexican food, and
Yeah.
and people are super similar, right? So some of my closest friends are from the Hani nation,
Yeah.
and Hani people they're Mexicans. They
Yeah.
do speak a different language, but they're Mexicans.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. It's yeah. No, I like that a lot. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in Mexico, but I've enjoyed the time that I was able to spend there, and there are a lot of similarities between the feeling of that.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's what I love about Yunnan. I also have a couple of pretty cool mentors. One of them, Mr. Lu Jiaming, who now runs a very, very successful factory or number of factories there, and my friends Fan and Gao, who also are they're from Northeast China, but they know whatever you want about calligraphy and painting and all the fine arts, playing Guqing. So yeah, I would say China's been a very, very generous country. Some very nice people.
So you also get to Japan. Where else did you go to? Taiwan or any place else?
Taiwan, Laos, Korea, Thailand. I recently hooked up with some folks in Bhutan, so I'm just waiting for travel to be safe to go check out some tea in Bhutan. I've seen some tea out of Villarrica, Chile, which is apparently the southernmost tea garden in the world.
Okay. And how far down in Chile?
8-hour drive south of Santiago, so it's pretty much farther down the.
Well, that sounds really interesting. What about the is the Laotian stuff you get? Is that processed as shung, or is it something different?
Shung pu'er, Fengsali. Yeah. I haven't brought any of that in a few years. I find Laos also fascinating. Have you been there? Have you crossed the border?
I have on multiple occasions been between Laos and China, but I have never actually been into Laos. But I have been, if I'm there for more than 3 months, like I gotta do something. So we get in the car and we drive all the way down to the border. I literally get out of the car. I leave China. I'm temporarily in no man's land, this gap between nations, and I walk across the street and I go right back into China, just so that I can get a stamp in, a stamp out. But I've not actually been. I've not been into Laos.
It's a crazy drive, man. Yeah. If you ever go, so in my experience, so Fengsali, it's pretty much the same latitude and actually really, really close to Yiwu. So the terroir, the trees they're very, very similar to Yiwu.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't just cross from Yiwu and go straight to Fengsali. You have to go south because it's the only border that's allowed for anybody that doesn't live there.
The only official one. I mean, you could walk through the forest probably and go to the other side.
Potentially, but
that's not worth it.
If you're not into getting shots, then you have to drive south to Udomshai and then north to Fengsali. And it's a cool drive. If you've got a car, which you do over there,
we do.
Can't recommend enough.
Yeah, it's everything with the car got a lot trickier once we started bringing our kids with us. So we generally kind of have to organize things a little bit differently, and we actually pay to bring a kind of like not really a maid, just like a caretaker for the kids and stuff. And so she comes. She comes with us. She's got a long history with the family. She loves the kids. The kids love her, and that's actually been really interesting because she's I forget which minority she is, but she has a way of just like connecting with like the people there in a village that in a way that like even Lamo and I don't. I thought we did have a really, really good connection. No, like she wakes up at like 5 a.m, and so she just starts walking out and like talking to like all the workers and the pickers and stuff. And in the past, I just assumed that the pickers were local, but the pickers are migrant and they're just moving around. And so she's talking to them and figuring out how much they're getting paid and where they come from and all these things. And I'm like, man, they're like just bringing her with like the insight that we had, and she'd never in her life actually left Kunming, like that's awesome, and man. she's like 65 years old, and so like this was like the biggest adventure of her life was like getting in the car with us and like driving down to Zishuangbana. Like every town she's taking a picture and she's posting it to WeChat. Hey guys, look where I am now, and they're like, oh man, You're in the big time now with those foreign babies traveling the world.
That's so cool, man. How does she cook? I would say 65-year-old lady from Kunming probably cooks some mean stuff.
So her family, Lamo's grandfather is pretty old, and so they usually always have like some like paid caretaker that's around to, you know, like help take care of him and stuff. And it, depending on availability, it's a handful of different people. If it's her, like, the cooking is absolutely incredible. Like, hers is just like the best, just the best. And she doesn't eat meat. She's a vegetarian, but she still cooks it. And I'm like, how do you know that it's gonna taste good? She's like, I just know it's gonna taste good. It's just, and it always is. Yeah, no, she's a real treat to travel with. But yeah, a little bit trickier traveling with kids, and especially doing any like border crossing type stuff. You know, if it's just me and Lamo, like, I don't really care. But like, we already have so much trouble like getting the kids into China anyways for a handful of reasons and things. And so like, once I'm there, the last thing I want to try and do is like try and do another border. Yeah.
Fair enough, man.
Yeah.
Fair enough. When those kids are a bit older and you know, then they'll speak better Chinese than you, and they'll,
they'll be I'll be just Lamo and I will be Gemma and I will be able to go and travel around and do interesting adventures around there. It'd be kind of fun. Leave Lamo and Gary in the city or something like that.
So, man, our mailman hasn't popped by, but please tell me about the tea that you sent.
Right.
And I'll make sure to write about it and
yeah. Well, so I think the whole idea, I'm trying to remember, the whole idea that I had when I reached out to you was that we'd just try a couple different teas, some stuff from your place, some stuff from our collection. And I thought once you mentioned the like the Japanese fermented thing, I was just like, well, shoot, we should stick with a shou pu'er. Miggity Mac in chat says Pedro. I think Miggity Mac is somebody who stops by occasionally. It's Alka Michael. He does the rapper. He does the rapper on some of our stuff. He's been on a stream or two of ours. So he's saying hi. So yeah, no, it's a Manghai area stuff, small batch, relatively low fermentation. So I'd say it was probably stopped maybe around like 60%. So it's still shung-ish. It doesn't have, you know, like a lot of strong
some honey ferment, you know, so some honey kind of.
The thing that really grabbed me about it was just a lot of the tea energy experience that I get from it, which isn't something that I always get from or something that I only rarely get from a shou, a cooked pu'er.
Nice. 60% it's not too high, definitely.
No, it's not, and that's it's nice that well, I mean I realize why they're doing it. I mean, if you bring in, you know, like really high quality material and you're trying to do small batch stuff, you start pushing it up into the 70s and the 80s, and you start to risk it like kind of turning. So I think they're kind of like hedging their bets and kind of like cutting it off a little early, just in case, you know, because you know.
And you said 2017 pressing, 2016 leaves.
Yeah. So the Wodoi was finished in spring 2017, and that's when we were in Manghai and we tried it, and I was just like, I've had so many just barely missed opportunities with shou pu'er from this guy that I knew that we had to move quick. In fact, sometimes, you know, like I'll go to his shop, I'll try something really nice. I always take samples back to the hotel, brew stuff myself before I, you know, buy a couple hundred kilos of something. And almost every single time when we're like, yep, this is good, and then we go back the next day and he's like, it's gone, it's sold. And I'm like, ooh, it kills me. So we moved pretty quick on this material, and I'm happy that we were able to get it. So you said that you had something that might be roughly similar, Manghai-ish, around the same time. And so, you know, you brew that, I'll brew this, and we'll just I mean, technically, I mean, it's video and it's online. So, you know, if we weren't such honest guys, nobody would know that we weren't actually drinking the same tea. Yeah. But thanks to
once it arrives, man, should I do you have any particular proportions in mind? Or should I just
I do 1 to 15. So I do 1 to 15, and I've got a small-ish teapot here, and I'm going to be putting in about 6.6 ml, something like that, 6.6 grams into it. And then I might use I've got a nice little cup I like to use for shou pu'er. So,
Sweet.
but you can also tell us how you like to do shou pu'er. What's your preferred method?
You know, lately I've been enjoying just stuffing the hell out of my teapot.
You just you just shove it in and brew it strong. I generally tend to overleaf and oversteep myself as well. In fact, it's actually 2 weeks ago. I had Shar, who's in chat. She's Oolong Owl, the famed tea blogger. She and I were on a video stream with our mutual friend Janet, who has the most amazing tea energy reaction. Janet's just an absolute joy to have tea with because whatever you give her just goes straight to her head, and she's just, and it's so much fun. So the three of us sat down in a Zoom stream and. We brewed Altered State, which has Alka Michael's art on it, which is a super heavy chachi tea. It's a shung pu'er, and that's just. And then after, it's a blend. So it's a blend of stuff that we put together. About 2 years ago, every tea shop I went to, every producer I was working with, I was just like, so what's the tea that you get the most highest tea energy reaction from? And then I took samples of those and kind of worked everything together. Not focusing on flavor or aroma or anything that I would normally traditionally focus on. I just wanted to focus on what gives at least me the highest tea energy reaction. And then she and Oolong Owl and I just sat down and did a strong session of that, and then a strong session of this back to back. And at the end of the tea stream, she was actually just laying on the floor. So it was pretty fun, pretty entertaining. So
nice, man. So I'm gonna do something similar. I think what I have here has it's definitely not 60% fermentation. It's closer to 85% fermentation.
Gotcha.
But pretty much the same region. Couple of years ahead. This is from 2015, harvested and pressed. So pressed late in 2015.
Okay.
But we're in the same territory in terms of region and age. Almost.
So, and if you guys are just tuning in, the reason why we can't be drinking the exact same tea is because Canada Post didn't actually deliver it. It's been attempted to be delivered on multiple times. That's why he keeps looking left to see if it's actually going to show up, because they swore it would be by this afternoon. So it's a funny thing because ironically, I mean. Even though there's an international border between us, I probably could actually have walked it to you faster than it would actually take to actually ship it, which is kind of a funny thing. We're only about 3 hours apart. Probably even 2.5. If there wasn't a border and I could just drive straight from here to you, I'd probably be there in 2 hours. 2 hours like that. Which is kind of cool.
We should probably do something in Bellingham or something in the middle, man.
Yeah. So so you're in Vancouver, which actually has a huge tea population, or a population of people that already understand tea to begin with. Like Michael. I mean, but they've got tea from both sides. I mean, they've got tea experience from the British side, and then you've got tea experience from everybody who came from Hong Kong in the 90s. Brought a lot of their pu'er tea with them. So.
And mainland, and we have a pretty good community, man.
Yeah, no, it's pretty great, and it's I noticed that once when we started doing when we started coming up there to help out with the tea festivals, is that I didn't have to spend much time explaining to anybody what the tea was, because they just automatically everybody, they're like yeah we've been drinking pu'er for years. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, great.
We have a few of those folks.
So when did you start your tea bar? Was that 2013?
Yeah, the bar opened in 2012.
2012.
August 24, 2012.
Shoot, man, that's almost 10 years now.
Dude, and they were so before that I spent 3.5 years with another attempt at opening a tea company and just not cracking it, mostly because I didn't have a tea bar. So a lot of the tea that I like is not something that was easy for Vancouver back then. In the sense that, I asked people, what kind of tea do you like? And the answers were something like, oh, I like strawberry shortcake sencha, or double flavor mango surprise, or jasmine, some people say, oh, I just like the finest jasmine, which was great. I respect jasmine and strawberry papaya surprises.
Yeah.
But dude, it was not the tea that I liked. It was not not what I was here for. So, I attempted something through a company called Doughty Inc. And I thought that because the tea was delicious, people would just drink it. It was untrue. It miserably failed. So after some time of just not doing it, I made a business plan. I got some good business partners.
That helps.
And yeah,
I married mine.
Dude, yeah, exactly. I was already married, so no more.
You're like, honey, it's for the business.
Exactly. No, it didn't work for me, man. So,
let me answer a question in chat here real quick. Ruben actually says he doesn't want people to stuff the teapots. He thinks it's counterproductive and wasteful. I'll disagree. I know what you mean. Sometimes it can get so full that it's really hard to actually like steep all the leaves. But I think this actually turned out really well. And he's drinking a Manjuan tea from us, 2018, and it's one of the ones that we did it like we were kind of having fun, playing with a little bit of a scientific type thing. I made like the tea balls kind of look. Oh, you can't even see that at all. I made the tea balls look kind of like a periodic table of the elements, and so he was curious what some of the. Grab the boulong. That might show up a little better. He's curious what the numbers mean. So yeah. So you can see some of the numbers on the bottom and stuff. Well, actually, you can't. But if you're in this, anyways, Ruben, to answer your question, the number at the bottom for the Manjuan is the. Is it latitude or longitude? It's the distance from the equator. I just thought it was an interesting thing to add as information onto there. We pressed some of that Manjuan material in 200-gram cakes, but most of that sold out. So yeah, if you guys are in the chat, let us know what you're drinking. It's always fun. People want to know. Great. Okay. All right. This is almost ready here. Almost ready. You know, as soon as we're done drinking this, that's when it's going to arrive, right?
I know, man. I'll send you what I think. No. I'll definitely drink it. I'm super curious.
Yeah.
So I'll drink it. I'll bata bata it. I will do it with a stuffed teapot, and I will do it with a non-stuffed.
Nice. Yeah, there should be enough in there. About 50 grams or so, something.
Yeah. I think that if you're just going to be drinking your tea for a long time, and it's a tea that doesn't oxidize too much.
Yeah.
I do believe in sometimes stuffing the teapots. Yeah. And just starting drinking at 6 a.m. and then finishing drinking that at midnight.
They just work through the whole day. Well, that's one of the things that I really like about pu'er tea is that it has such generosity that you can just keep going with it.
I would not do it with all teas, but some teas are definitely good. A person that I've learned a lot from was my friend Daniel, who you know from the Chinese tea shop.
Sure, absolutely.
And he thought, well, he's a guy who lived for some time in Chaozhou, like Phoenix Mountain.
Yeah.
He taught me how to crush some leaves and distribute some crushed and some non-crushed leaves in your teapot, and do it as they do over there.
Yeah.
And I've learned about flavors in danchong that I had not discovered before. I usually gaiwan my danchongs and did it as I saw. I've been to Phoenix Mountain 3 times, but his way of doing it was different, and I've just learned about
there we go.
Many flavors that I didn't discover.
Not too dark.
Clean, man.
Not too dark. Pretty clean. Little bit of dust there. So.
Did you filter or?
I did not. I generally don't. I do for shung. Just because I've got this fun old potentially Song Dynasty cup that was turned into a filter, so I really like to do that.
Potentially Song Dynasty, nice.
Well, that was that's the story. Like they've you see these every now and then. Like pulled out of some garbage dump next to some old kiln or something, just a broken piece of teaware, and they clean it up and stick some.
It's a nice potentially Song Dynasty filter.
Yes, it's a nice potentially Song Dynasty filter. There is some interesting stuff about it though. Like so they just drill a hole through the center, right, and put like a quick little filter, yep. Right. So that's the center of the cup based on that. But if you look at the center of where the glaze pooled, you see how it's off to the side. So it would have actually been in a kiln that had an angle to it, which might have implied that it was actually fired in a dragon kiln. So I don't know, interesting little stuff. I found a couple of them in a store in Kunming, and had one guy that I trust verify that they were Song Dynasty, but then he wouldn't actually put his name onto it, and so it's just like, well, that doesn't really.
Before the Mongols invaded, man.
It doesn't really help. It's a long time ago. It's a long time ago.
Fair enough. If you like the piece and whatever.
I do like the piece, and it's kind of fun. Just a little extra thing to do into the gong fu session. But if we're drinking our teas for analyzing something for purchase, I don't use a filter. I don't use fancy cups. I just use a Gaiwan Fairness cup, something porcelain. So, but
that's what. Do you ever roast your raw pu'ers?
I've never roasted. I've never roasted them. Do you do that? How do you do that?
For consumption. So have you? So sometimes with lao hu ju and honey ju.
Yeah.
Sometimes have you seen when they have like, how do you call it, a comal, a clay vessel?
Yeah.
And you roast the leaves and then you throw them in a pot and you boil them. So you actually boil your pu'er.
Yeah.
And you think it's gonna be horribly bitter because you're boiling raw pu'er, and then it comes out sweet and delicious.
I've not. I haven't tried that. Where do you see people trying it like that, or what's the story?
So
I've
seen that in I've seen that in Wulang. I've seen that in Banjiang. I've seen that in Nanuosan.
Oh, okay. I've seen. Yeah, no. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. But I didn't realize that they were actually roasting the tea ahead of time.
Yeah, they call it cow cha. So cow cha, in the same cow roll, like when you have a barbecue, the same word, the same cow.
Yeah.
And I think so, at least in my crappy Chinese, but I think it's the same cow.
It should
anyway,
be.
You roast the tea and then you boil the hell out of it, and my first reaction was that's gonna be crazy bitter, but as you roast it, you make it pretty sweet, and that allows you to actually boil your pu'er. I've seen it mostly in the hills in homes of people, nothing fancy, but I think it's a delicious way of drinking it sometimes when you have a very let's say a violent younger pu'er.
A rough one.
It's sometimes one way to make it very easy drinking very quickly.
And how do you do the roasting then? What was it? Did I miss that?
So usually those guys, they use like a little clay pan.
I mean, is that what you do? How do you do it?
Well, I have a horuku, a clay roaster from Japan, which is used to make hojicha. So I sometimes use my horuku. I've also used a skillet, just to
skillet over the stove to just bring in.
I used to live in Cincinnati, so not far from Kentucky, which is pretty much skillet land.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of cast iron skillets from my days in roaming in Kentucky.
Nice.
And I find that my skillets roast pretty decently.
Oh, nice. Okay, so just so you're basically just adding heat to it before you steep it then.
Yeah. You wanna heat it. You wanna brown it.
Yeah.
Not burn it. So if your tea catches fire, that's not good. That won't taste so delicious.
Yeah.
You just want to think about s'mores when you're trying to get them like golden on the outside, but not burnt.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. So you brown your tea and then you throw it in a teapot, and I would probably say that maybe 4 or 5 grams will be more than enough for 1 liter. Now, don't do it with your most expensive Banjiang, of course, and or do maybe it's delicious. So
yeah. I mean, if you've never tried it, maybe it actually would be good. So
yeah, exactly. Maybe I should, right? I've tried mostly with the stuff that they drink over there. They sometimes just have some tea for family consumption, and that's farmer's choice. The Huang Pian stuff, the stuff that that the farmer that the people don't want. And you drink it for thirst. You don't drink it just to for geeking out.
Yeah.
But
in fact, I've not
enjoyable tea.
Only within the last couple of years have most of the farmers we worked with actually got a gong fu tasting room now. But yeah, I mean, when we were first going there, I mean, you've been to those same places and stuff. You go to try tea, and they're like, well, here's a mug, and then that's it. That's how you're drinking your tea. Yeah.
Right.
And they'll have to start a fire to boil water if because they didn't have electricity at that hour of the day and things like that. But now they almost all have Kung Fu room, big giant tables, like teaware everywhere and things like that. So it's really changed. But you're right, that's not how they drink it, because that's not how that was never their focus. Their focus is more using it as a fuel. So the fastest way they can get as much of the energy from the tea into their body as possible, like then they can work longer in the fields
or thirst quenching or whatever. I very much. And you said that you go back to your hotel and try the tea again.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty wise, because oftentimes when I'm up in the mountain drinking some tea, I think it tastes phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's the water and the air and the company and the bonfire and like, dude, it's amazing tea. And then I try it again. Maybe it wasn't that good.
Yeah. We learned. We've learned a lot. It's not our first rodeo. It's not your first rodeo. You learn things the hard way. If you've got a big, huge, giant bag of tea in front of you and they're always pulling from the top, like when I take my sample, I dig down and I pull it from something that's a little further down, just in case they sprinkled something nice on the top, and then. We actually I bring my own water, I bring my own teaware, and so I try to have everything as consistent as possible with how I normally drink tea, just so that I can kind of rule out anything. But I mean, that said, there's, as long as the tea's been processed with quality, somebody's going to enjoy drinking it. It's like there's enough palates and tastes out there and stuff. I just try and put my best foot forward. And you do this same thing. Just trying to.
Yeah. The other thing that I found is and you might have seen something similar is for many of these guys, I'm not really business. I'm just some goofball who's hanging out in Yunnan trying to learn as much as possible. But the big dollars don't come from me. They come from somebody else. I'm gonna buy like 100 cakes and that's nothing.
Yeah.
So because of that, many of my friends over there have been extremely kind, and I'm treated more like a lot of these guys, they spend much more time with me than what they should if it were for money.
Yeah.
And it's more about just sharing and generosity, and I sometimes send them WeChat messages about people drinking their tea over here in the bar.
Yeah.
Which they get a kick out of that. Much more than, or in a very different way than if it were. Of course, they would like bigger sales, but
that was the first time we were working with some farmers and stuff, and sitting there like getting to know them, and like drinking tea with them and talking with them and stuff. And then eventually they're like, "So how much tea do you want?" And we're like, "Well, we can get 3 kilos." And they just kind of like looked at us like, that's like a sample. Like, what? Like, is that it? Right. Is that all you're getting? And I'm like, man, that's like that's all we could afford our first year. I was like,
exactly.
It was just kind of a funny thing. But for the farmers that have stayed with us long enough, we definitely like purchase more from them over the years, which is kind of exciting to see, like their success grow and their name in the area getting more like prominent as well, which is kind of really great to see that. In a lot of cases, a lot of the tea farmers that we work with in some of the fancier mountains and stuff, I mean, they make more money than I do in a given year. Significantly more money than I do.
What they do is they pretty much just take your picture and have it there. So, Western customer. But
I find I don't. Do you have your picture up in a bunch of different shops and stuff, man? My picture's all over the place.
I don't have the proper beard, man.
They always
work on that one day.
I don't know. It's like it's the funniest thing. They're always just In fact, one of the tea farmers that we worked with, he was at like some regional tea convention or something like that, right? Just a bunch, stuffy thing. Everyone's sitting in some room, like like PowerPoint spreadsheet, like displays and things like that. And he took a video of it. There were pictures of me at the Northwest Tea Festival brewing tea. Like that was part of like some guy's presentation, and I was just like, he's like, "Hey, this is you, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me. I guess exactly. I'm in some guy's like tea spreadsheet in Yunnan now, or tea.
Running on WeChat when you're there, man. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Which is all good.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I find that in the case of at least myself, I'm not seeing for my dollars because they're not really relevant in the overall scheme of things in Yunnan.
Yeah.
But more as a probably gateway to share with people in the other side of the world. And I find that fascinating. I usually bring some mezcal and for some reason my friends in Yunnan, they love sea cucumbers. So whenever I try to travel to China, I bring a few bags of sea cucumbers, which are very expensive over there.
Sea cucumbers, interesting.
Yeah, they're the thing, man. Next time you go, you're gonna be the most popular dude if you bring some sea cucumbers.
Sea cucumbers. They're not alive, right? They're
no. Yeah. Dried.
I was just like,
dried.
How do you get through customs with that?
No. I would not bring live sea cucumbers. You bring just packed like dried sea cucumbers.
Huh?
They're not cheap here. They are like 4 or 5 times more expensive there, and they love them. So you bring some sea cucumbers, and likely they will give you some really nice tea.
I have bringing alcohol is actually a smart thing to do. That's especially alcohol that you're familiar with and that you know how to drink. Because, you know how it is. You get over there and some guy's got some plastic jug under his table of something. You've got no idea how he made it, where he made it, what's in it. But like you drink enough of his tea and he's like, all right, let's switch to this. And
it tastes like motorcycle fuel.
Oh, yeah, it's so bad. And so yeah, for a couple of years I was actually bringing tequila, which I actually love. I love drinking tequila, and I prefer drinking that to anything that they have over there. And it was interesting to them because then they'd never had that before, and so they were very excited to try stuff.
On that note, and going back to the analogy of Yunnan and Oaxaca.
Yeah.
If you get one of the smaller batch clay still mezcales, please try doing that sous vide with cooked pu'er.
Okay.
So you sous vide your mezcal again. Clay still is better because you get a bit of the bonfire smokiness, but you can also taste the plant, and it actually has some pretty decent gun. If you sous vide that with probably some of the heavier boulang, funkier, more fermented dark pu'ers.
Yeah.
You express the tea really nicely.
So yeah, you've done a lot of work with tea and alcohol pairings and stuff at your shop, right?
Or not a lot of work.
Oh, okay.
But we do work a lot with bartenders and so what I really like to do is express tea through different ways. And that's why we're having discussion of stuffed teapot, non-stuffed teapot. Thank you. Gancha, beautiful. So I find that you can express tea in hot water, in cold water. You can kombucha that thing and it'll bring something else, or you can express it through alcohol, and sometimes do a bit of both. I very much enjoyed a mezcal, which you sous vide with pu'er, like I said. But then you dilute a little bit because when you have an alcoholic concentration under 20%, it becomes much more volatile. So the aromatics become way more volatile.
Interesting.
And then if you want to make it more of a lady pleaser, you add a few drops of birch syrup to add some sweetness, and you serve that with some cheese. And there's a lot that you can do.
Yeah.
I like it because it's not really hiding the pu'er. You simply express the pu'er in a very different way. And I also find it fascinating because, like I said, Oaxaca and Yunnan, in my mind, are such complementary pieces of land and cultures.
Yeah. What's the altitude of Oaxaca in general?
Well, it's
I don't remember geographically if it's in the mountains.
So there's a sierra which probably has mountains 2,000 to 3,000 meters. I would say 6,000 to 9,000 feet high.
Okay.
And there's also sea level because Oaxaca is on the coast. So.
Gotcha.
There's diversity.
Yeah.
You don't have the 7,000 meter mountains that you have in northern Yunnan, like Zhongdian.
Oh yeah. No. But yeah, most
Yunnan,
of the
you do have your 2,000-3,000 meter mountains.
I was just wondering if there's a similarity in altitude and stuff like that. Yeah.
Latitude is not different. So Mexico City is very, very close to the Tropic of Cancer, and Oaxaca is a bit south of that. So latitude is almost the same as the south of Yunnan.
That makes sense.
And altitude is not that different. And there's a bunch of places in Oaxaca that where there's desert, but there's a lot of high altitude rainforest, just like what you see in Lao and Xishuangbanna.
That's pretty cool, man. That's I do. There's a really like a friend of a friend, or his parents run a really nice Oaxacan restaurant in Seattle, and anytime I get a chance to go down there, it's just so good, so good.
Yeah,
I've been slowly. It wasn't Lamo really wasn't into the Mexican food when we first got married, but slowly over time, I've been working her into it. Now she'll be like, she'll message me, is like, you should bring back some tacos or something for dinner tonight. Or something.
Yeah, so, no, it can be good. It can be good.
Yeah.
And also the style, the hospitality of the people. It's
yeah,
also,
I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, no, that's actually that's really interesting to see those parallels. So
what's it? We'll bring some mezcal to those guys. I'll you guys over there.
Yeah, no, mezcal's I think my problem with mezcal is I had some bad mezcal early on, and I think it's similar to like pu'er. Like if your first one's bad, then you kind of think about that for a long time. But since then, I've had some really good experiences. I always liked tequila, but mezcal was a little bit trickier just because of some of the early mezcals.
Bad memories.
Yeah,
fair enough. And yeah.
No, I'm totally down for trying more stuff, and that's one of the things. I mean, I enjoy alcohol. Now when I go down there, I basically have to tell them that I don't drink, because it's one of those things where it's like one shot is 20. Like there's no way around it. Like unless you can find a way to not take that first shot at all, then you'll be good. But
don't go to KTV.
No. Yeah, the KTV angle is awkward, and yeah, and so I just have to tell them, like, I'm here for the tea. Like I
do go to KTV, but it's different. Yeah, it's a different trip. Yeah. It's interesting, man.
Yeah, KTV for people just watching is kind of like it's basically like a karaoke rooms that you get, but it's all singing and alcohol and late into the night partying, which is a lot of what they do in Manghai in the spring picking season.
It's a party town.
It's total
hospitality is amazing. People are super nice. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. What were you gonna ask?
So we were talking a little bit about like COVID stuff. What are some of the challenges with running a retail tea shop during the COVID days? How have you guys been doing up there?
We're pretty much empty, man.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a challenge. Now it's not terrible because people have been pretty kind, and we're doing we started doing subscriptions. We are doing more of these things, more online stuff. I'm like a freaking Japanese teenager, so I used to have a lot of conversations with people before, face to face, and I was able to make tea for people. Now Jeff and Bailey, who are fulfilling orders, are answering emails and writing nice letters to customers and all explaining about the tea. So we're doing pretty much the same thing that we've always done in a different way.
Yeah.
Life's been kind. Our business is alive. We're doing well.
That's good, man.
Yeah, keep trying to keep people safe, and people have different ideas. People are stressed out, so just smile to everybody and try to give a nice cup of tea. And
tea helps. I mean, tea really helps, in times like this. So I mean, it's people still need to have their tea. We've found that these tea streams that we do, these live sessions, work really nicely, just to kind of fill the gap on the ability to, because I mean, like you, like I would spend a lot of time just having tea and talking with customers a lot of the days, and if you don't have that, you start to something just doesn't feel right. So, but
on the bright side, so because this has been happening, I have I have a chance to talk to you, because otherwise we would probably just meet at the festival. And I've been doing a lot of these with random groups of martial artists and yoga people all over North America, which is fun. The fact that we are so restricted has also given me an extra push to start reaching out to people who otherwise I wouldn't see as often. So thanks for the invite, man.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I was happy that you were able to make some time for us, which is kind of definitely grateful for that. If anybody has any questions in the chat, just jump in and let us know. I've always been fascinated with bar concepts that are used for things that aren't alcohol. So like the concept of a tea bar, I just think is like just one of the greatest things ever. If I ever really got around to it, I'd consider working on something similar in Seattle. I mean, I've put some thought into it, but it's that's a whole different can of worms once you get into, like the retail space and, like employees and physical location and stuff like that. So I mean, I know and you've but you've done well. It's almost 10 years now, man. That's pretty awesome.
I've been kind.
And
yeah, no complaints.
No, it's a nice space that you've got there. So I think it's probably 2013 maybe we came up for the Vancouver Tea Festival. You were doing some little after party things into the evening, and so I think Lamu and I kind of like swung by and kind of sat down and had some tea stuff there. So you also do a lot with kombucha as well, right?
Yeah, well, I just think about kombucha as a different way of expressing tea.
Yeah.
It's like, in the cooking world, you might have some broccoli and you can fry it or steam it or whatever. You can make it into soup. So that's how I think of kombucha. Usually, your kombucha is not flavored. There's no ginger or passion fruit or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just fermented tea. So it gives you a different angle, a different way of drinking that. And we've done it also for coffee, for example.
Okay.
And I've tried some coffee that's over roasted. That's actually not pleasant.
Yeah.
And it becomes super drinkable once you ferment it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's how I look at that. Mr. Ben, how are you doing, sir? And this, whenever you have a chance, the other anaerobically fermented tea that you have over there, I would suggest please just put some cold water.
That was the awabancha.
Awa is the older name of Tokushima. Tokushima being in Shikoku Island.
Yeah.
In the eastern part of Shikoku Island in Japan. So it's an anaerobically fermented bancha, which I think you will find really interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the mushroomy, earthy flavor that you would see in fermented tea.
Right.
It usually has a much more like sour pickled. It's actually, to put it in different words, it's a pickled tea.
It's pickled tea. That makes sense. That's a good description.
I think you're gonna find it interesting, sir.
Yeah, no, I will, and I appreciate you sending some out to us. It was I wish the Stormbreaker had gotten there. That would have been extra.
I will be drinking Stormbreaker pretty soon.
Yeah, I know you will.
I'm going to ask Michael if he's got any mind blowing.
Michael does actually. Yeah, he so we always hook up our artists with free tea it's got their stuff on it. I mean, in addition to paying them as well, and so. So Michael's definitely got multiple cakes at least of that. So Michael, if you're still in the chat, if you're still watching, I don't know. It's pretty. It's only 3:30. He's probably still asleep. No, he sleeps late. I don't know. Yeah, Michael said
it's weird times right now. You're supposed to not meet too many people here, but you know what?
Yeah.
At some point, we're gonna be able to see people again, and I'll drink some tea with that guy. And
we'll see if, I'd be curious to get your opinion on that. So, tell me about your opinion on the concept of tea energy. What is it, and how does tea do that in your opinion?
How does tea do that? Well, I think that food in generally does that. I don't think I'm as sensitive as Janet is. So I usually don't lie after this, but. You know what? I would agree completely with her that you feel the tea, and that's one of the things that I like about the Asian way of appreciating tea versus probably the more conventional Western tea sommelier system. Because in the tea sommelier system, you do a cupping session and you drink and you spit, which is I get it. Like you can taste and you can smell the tea. In my opinion, my enjoyment of tea, it's not just about that, but also about how it makes you feel. So we're having a bar, people ask me, which is the best tea, which is the healthiest tea, and that really depends on you. Your body will react differently. So what I would say is, if you want to know which tea is the best for you, maybe spend a couple of hours drinking it, and it has to be a couple of hours, because otherwise you don't really get a feel of the energy of the tea, how it will suit your body. And you can interpret energy however you want. But I think an undeniable fact is, after drinking something, after eating something, you will feel different. I happens to be that many teas just make me feel great. I feel so much better after drinking them than before. Which is
we have a lot of conversations with, and I always ask the same question basically to anybody who's on the stream with us, just to get different people's like thoughts and opinions on it. And some people are convinced it's nothing more than like a caffeine reaction, but like in my experience, like in the 20s, like I spent years drinking like super high caffeinated energy beverages, and I never got anything that comes even close to the feeling that I get from tea. So I know it's not just caffeine. And the other side of it is just like, well, it's like like the gong fu, like whatever you put like time and energy and focus into that, like that is a result of that. But I could do like a gong fu session with just water, and I'm not going to have like a tea energy reaction. So I mean, I know that there's something special about the tea. I just trying to I don't know, it's something that's interesting to talk about.
I totally agree, sir, and I'm with you. It's not just the caffeine. And proof of that is, depending on what kind of tea you're drinking, you will feel in a different way.
Yeah.
As in, for example, you do some of the parched greens from north of the Yangtze.
Yeah.
Or you do a raw pu'er from Yunnan, or you do some matcha, and really the way you feel is different. And one thing I try to do is I try to choose my drink based on the time of the year, and based on the time of the day, and how I want to feel.
Yeah.
That will also be that will also influence my choice on whether I want to stuff my teapot or not.
Yeah.
Or whisk it,
right.
or gong fu it, or whatever. I think that you're right in the sense that both the process and the ingredients, the tea, make a difference.
Yeah.
And they influence the flavor.
You're right about the Western versus Eastern approach to appreciation of tea, because we find that in China a lot. It's always about emotion in feeling, like less of a focus on like taste and aroma. It's a lot more about like body feel, mouth feel, throat feel. So that's kind of an interesting thing, because the sommelier angle, which is what like we're focused on in the West. It's like like what does it taste like? What does it smell like? Like those are your big things. And
then you do competitions, and you grade the tea, and it's 94 points and whatever, and you do your charts, and the charts are cool, and I see some value in those.
Yeah.
But the charts don't tell me if the tea is gonna make me happy, which is in the end the only thing that matters to me. If I drink this, am I gonna be happy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. No, that's a good point. And there's certainly teas I've had that didn't make me happy.
That's true. And you know what? I've tried some award-winning teas that are supposed to be amazing, and they just don't go well with me. And I've tried some really humble stuff that should win no awards, and it's great.
Yeah, I like the well, maybe it's an older Chinese idea about the best teas are the teas that you remember, right? And so like I've had a handful of tea experiences over the years that are just like locked in my head. Like I know exactly like where I was, like what day, like everything about that tea session is one that is like stuck in my head. So with that definition, that would be a really good tea. Whereas some other teas, like may have been like really amazing teas, but like it just never actually like stuck into my brain. It's kind of a fun.
That brings another really interesting concept. So in order for it to stick in your brain, there's the tea, there's the brewing technique, and there's also the company.
Yeah.
So oftentimes you remember these amazing tea sessions because of who you are with.
Right.
And I sometimes liken this to when you practice martial arts.
Yeah.
If you and I practice martial arts, it's not about you killing me or vice versa. It's about working together.
Yeah.
So if you and I are drinking tea, and if you and I are drinking tea, and I make tea for you, if I'm happy but the tea doesn't work for you, then I failed. that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
We need to connect.
Yeah.
And I need to make tea in a way in which at the end both of us are happy. And I would say, you know, when you made the tea for Oolong Owl and Janet and everybody was happy.
Yeah.
Perfect. You achieved something, and it was a memorable tea session which you recalled right now.
Yeah, that was a fun. That was fun.
Yeah.
A fun session. Yeah, if you get a minute, check out that video. Put it on 2x. You can watch it in half the time. It's just it's really funny.
And watch the conclusion where it's
yeah, no, she's
fair enough, man.
It's just going down. It was kind of funny. I think it's part of this next steep. I might try to whisk it. See what happens with that. I'm gonna give it a go. Might as well experiment with it. Experiment with it a little bit.
Absolutely. I'll do the same. I'll bata bata my.
Bata bata. Yeah, I was always fascinated with the Japanese ability to create automatopoeia for like the funniest things. Like I think the one that amused me the most was saying peko peko for when you're hungry. And peko peko is the onomatopoeia for the sound of like an empty aluminum can. Peko peko peko. And so it's awesome. Like your belly is empty the same way like an aluminum can is empty. Peko. So they just say peko peko. Like I'm really and that
means you're really hungry. Yeah.
It just means you're really hungry. So kind of like this idea of like bata bata.
Have you tried buku buku from Okinawa?
I have not.
So in buku buku, you usually serve a santincha, which is jasmine tea.
Yeah.
But it's a bit like a cappuccino. So there's a Ryukyu Kingdom tea ceremony or you know, sado, the way of tea from Ryukyu. And what you do is you make froth with rice water.
Okay.
And it's a very, very rich froth. And what you do is you boil genmai and add a pinch of salt. And then you have this giant, and I'm not kidding, man. That chasen is probably 35 centimeters long. Just a massive chasen.
There we go.
And you get a giant bowl. Dude.
There we go.
Well, man.
I'm good.
See what you think. Is that tea good? Does it make you happy?
The bubbles make me happy. It's just effervescent. It's like a carbonated beverage. I just like little fizziness.
Yeah, it brings a nice texture, eh?
So we got a message here from Ruben. Actually, Oscar says, "Hey guys, what's going on? What's going on, Oscar?" Ruben actually says, "Pickle tea sounds gross." I think it was pickled tea. So I think actually like tea made from pickles would maybe be gross, but a tea that had been pickled in the pickling process, I think that was the thing. Although I guess like people drink pickled juice. That's a thing. I've seen that at bars and stuff, like a pickle chaser and stuff. I don't know. Ruben says he's coming to the conclusion that the best pu'er has good taste, thick broth, most importantly, returning sweetness and body feel. Age of tea, kind of just variable thoughts. Yeah, pretty much. Like if you were to try to like put onto paper like what is a good pu'er, those are the things that you want. You want good body feel. You want a nice returning sweetness, some thick broth, some body, and if regardless of what the actual details of the tea are, if your tea hits those things, there you go. It's good.
I think Ruben's got a point. And I also think that if he doesn't like sour, then pickled tea will definitely not work out.
There you go. Ruben.
It's different, man. And it's one of these things that, again, if it doesn't make you happy, stay away from it. If it makes you happy, then drink more of it. But it's a tea that will taste sour. And so will goichi chai. It's a bit like tamarind.
Yeah.
In a way. But, you know, some people just find that repulsive, and that is okay.
I like having a little sour / bitter thing in my tea. I don't know. I know in a lot of times in pu'er tea, like sour is supposed to be an indicator of something going wrong. And I know some teas can like age to a certain point and they bring out some sourness and then it kind of like goes away in the future. I myself actually don't.
This is an in your face. Like it's not.
Yeah.
I find it pretty pleasant, but it's an in-your-face sour. It doesn't taste like pu'er that went sour.
Okay.
It tastes like it tastes like acidic and like a bit like hibiscus.
Yeah.
I personally find it very pleasant, but you have to be in a mindset that this is not pu'er. If you're expecting pu'er and drink this, you're gonna say this is disgusting.
Yeah.
If you are just in the mindset that I'm gonna try a new drink.
Yeah.
Then maybe through I find it more pleasant than any of the of the caffeinated drinks that you used to do in your younger years.
Yeah. Ruben says that they'll try it for the experience. So Ruben, that's the spirit. That's how you learn new stuff.
That's it, man. And then you can make a choice. I've tried a lot of stuff that I just think it's gross, and then I don't drink it again.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I've had a handful of interesting experiences that are just like, you know what, that's great. I'm glad that you like that. I mean, that was basically my history with all of tea, anyways. Like I had very, very few experiences with tea where I was just like, yeah, this is something I really want to drink a lot more of. But then once I actually had pu'er tea for the first time, that's when it was just like, wow, yeah, no, this is something that I do want to drink more of.
I agree. I do like pu'er very much. But you know what? I also like learning about other things, and I was fascinated by Tokushima and anaerobic fermentation. So,
all right, we got somebody from the UK, Spool String, just logged in. It says, what up? They just had some Tiguan Yin and might want to. They're going to bust out some Dark Depths. One of our shou pu'ers that we had.
Nice.
Super thick and extra dark. Brew it up.
You get good
feels
names,
like coffee.
You come up with some pretty good names for your.
Thanks, man. We have a little note thing on our phones, and like anytime we're driving around, Llama's just like, would this be a good name for a tea? And I'm like, no. Would this be a good name for a tea? No. Would this be a good name? And I'm like, oh, maybe. So we'll make a note of that, and then when springtime comes around, then we try and kind of like build a structure around a name. I try to be a little bit kind of all-encompassing about it. I kind of want the well, I mean, I feel that tea has a story to tell, and if I can kind of help that with, like some interesting art and, like an interesting name to kind of like build a little bit more of an experience from it. It's just
I hear you, man.
Things we like to do.
I hear you. At some point, I'm going to ask you, please, to help me out to find a supplier for printing tea wrappers in China, because I haven't.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of the shop that we work with now has the ability to print one-off wrappers for relatively cheap. But the quality of the one-off wrappers is not as good as like the bigger production ones. Like the colors bleed a little bit more depending on the paper. So the trick is trying to find that balance between like the number of papers versus what's like the minimal cost. I mean, you know what it is to run a business and stuff like that. And so usually it's around like 600 to 1,000 papers is like the minimum. Usually it's like 1,000, and so 1,000 papers is like the minimum to get the good printers running and stuff like that. But they can make some exceptions. I just don't like wasting papers. Like if I
hate wasting paper.
If I'm only pressing like 500 cakes, but I had to buy 1,000 wrappers, and you got an extra 1,000 wrappers, and I'd rather just pay them the full amount and then just not print me the extra ones.
I understand, man.
But
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, no, just message me. We've got a shop that we've been working with for a long time, and they're just they're the best. It's fun because I get to go in there and I get to see all of the different wrappers that everybody else is printing. Stuff that like never makes it to like the markets and stuff, and like small production things, and it's hilarious, some of the wrappers these guys are making over there. It's pretty funny. But so
indeed.
So yeah. Ruben, Ruben's talking about our tea called Slumbering Dragon. You're familiar with some of like the wild tea stuff that they do in Yunnan? Yeah, there's interesting stuff there. It's such a large term, just the term wild. Well, I mean, it's just used. I think it's overused in the market to mean all sorts of different things.
It's
and
like
then
tea master.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's been like picking wild tea for like 10 or 15 years, is it still wild anymore? If it was I don't know, it's interesting stuff. But the stuff that we get some stuff from Kunlu Shan that's like the tall pole. Have you seen some of the tall pole trees? And that's such a really interesting. It's a very interesting experience. So Ruben mentioned that was a little too sour for his experience, which makes sense. But it can have a kind of like a sour depth to it. So
yeah, that's what I find really good about tea. There's such a broad diversity that there's gonna be some that makes everybody happy.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's not the same.
Yeah.
Which again, when you're sharing tea with other people, it's that's something that you have to learn about your tea drinking friends.
Yeah. Ruben said that our 2017 was good, but the 2020 is over the top. I've actually found that tea does calm down quite quickly within just a handful of years. So like early spring production stuff, like same year. That's a really aggressive tea. Either it's for you or it isn't. But yeah, just 2, 3, 4 years, and it actually calms down quite a bit. So, do you? You store a lot of tea in Vancouver. What does your tea storage setup look like?
My tea storage setup.
I guess for pu'er tea that you might want to be aging. What are you?
Aging.
What's your approach to that?
Dark room. Not much humidity. But Vancouver is such an easy place to store tea because it's cooler. It's not too moist.
Yeah.
Relatively because it's cooler.
So you do more of a natural storage. You don't heat or humidify.
Yeah. No, nothing too fancy. The oldest things that I've had is so my first tea shipments were in 2008.
Okay.
I still have some of that, and just a cool, dry place.
Okay.
No humidor, just cool, dry. I like how it's been aging. Some of those teas are drinking just beautifully by now.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of our customers have interesting home, Pomodoro type setups where they do a lot of like fun, cool, controlled experiments. And it's really cool to see just kind of some of the results and stuff that they've been having. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
A lot of fun to
see. What do you
have? So we've got one room in the house that we've because we run our tea business out of our homes. We've got one room in the house that we've dedicated to tea storage. So I use pretty much just those simple commercial stainless steel like wire rack things for some nice just a little airflow and stuff. And I actually do temperature and humidity control the room to be about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 65% relative humidity. I'm just trying to hit like a baseline that's not pushing my thoughts on humid stored tea onto people, because I actually kind of like something that's got a little bit more of a humid dankness on it. But for the teas that we've got here, I'm just kind of trying to keep it in a middle road so that when the customer actually purchases it, if they want to like make it like a drier storage, they can. If they want to make it a wetter storage, they can. And so that was largely a business decision, I guess, just to kind of keep it like that. So but yeah, that's it. Just a big, huge, giant room with bunch of tea. So.
It probably smells delicious. That's what my tea room smells like. You get in there like.
Well, it's interesting because it does different stuff. Sometimes you'll go in there and you're like, wow, okay, that aroma's not great. Like like you wonder what happened. Like did some tea like hit some certain age point where it decided to off gas something or but then most of the times I'll go in there and like, oh my gosh, it just smells so good.
Yep.
But then it also does really weird stuff. Like once we get like a big shipment in from China, like maybe like another 100 kilos of bricks or something, or you stick that in there, like it has to take this time for it to kind of like adjust. And so you'll notice like the humidity of the room starts to drop as like those teas start like sucking up a bunch of stuff, and it's Spool String wants to know, how is the My Tea community? I don't know what you're talking about, Spool String. I don't know what the My Tea community is. So. Ruben says I need to look at absolute humidity rather than relative. Well, I mean, absolute humidity certainly changes. So you need to have a temperature. You need to have a humidity that's. You need to understand the number as it's tied to temperature. So, interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Your fermentation process will be a function of both absolute humidity and temperature.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
So Any other? How's the New York tea community? I don't know, Spool String. We're not in New York. I'm in Seattle, and Pedro is in Vancouver, a couple hours north of us. So I don't know how the New York tea community is. So,
I think they're doing well. You know, I don't know too much, but I think there's a decent number of folks over there, being such a large city with so many people from abroad.
Yeah, they've got a decent. I mean, they've got a huge Chinese community, and they've got tea shops there. They've got a handful of fancy hipster style tea bars and stuff like Pedro's in Vancouver.
Exactly. No, different, man. Different. I wish I could charge New York prices, but I don't. I charge different prices.
Yeah, no, that's a tricky thing, is trying to run. I mean, every business trying to figure out like what actually is the price to charge, and like real estate in New York is ridiculous. Like I mean, you start to
Vancouver is no different.
Seattle too. Like like I sit there and like I try to do like some little head spreadsheet about like, man, like what would happen if I opened a tea bar, and then like you start thinking about like how many hours you'd have to stay open, and then employees, and you gotta pay employees. Like they're gonna work for free. So all that stuff starts adding up, and then you start to figure out like, okay, well you've got to sell more. Then I mean you know what I'm talking about. But I think a lot of people
I do.
Kind of.
I do. It's a different game.
It's entirely different game. So yeah, Spool String. I'm not entirely certain how the New York tea community is doing, but I think they're doing all right. So.
Yeah, they have some pretty good choices. There are a couple of suppliers out of there that are pretty good. Just north of there in Quebec, there's a pretty cool community. Those guys with all their French influence and taste. We have some really good friends at Camilla Sinensis.
Oh, is that where they're based out of?
Camilla Sinensis is out of Montreal and Quebec City.
Okay.
But, we're good friends with those guys. I know that there are a few restaurants in New York that are doing tea really, really nicely.
Yeah. Ruben is in Israel, and he said people there don't like to spend money on tea. I can see that, but like once tea communities take time to grow, and that you have to try good tea before you really understand why you're paying.
Yeah, we have a customer here who he was actually just looking in, but his dream has been to open a tea bar in Tel Aviv. He's been trying to convince me to be a partner for Tel Aviv.
Well, Ruben, I'm sure Ruben would go. Ruben, if somebody opened a tea bar in Tel Aviv, would you show up? Would you frequent that business?
My friend. Yeah, dude. Yeah, my friend Ben Ami has been talking about opening something in Israel for a while too.
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, you got to start small. That's actually one of the fun things that you could do with a kind of like a smaller tea bar. I mean, because you guys have a relatively physically small space. I mean, you take advantage.
Small space.
You take advantage of it, But you could you could totally have like a really cool style tea bar that actually really didn't use a lot of physical space. So you can kind of.
The point of the tea bar is so. Of course, I like to have people here drinking and spending time and all, but I think the largest value of it is we can get people to try their tea before they buy it.
Yes. Yeah.
So when people leave through the door, we know that whatever they have in their bag is something that will make them happy.
Yeah.
And that's what made a huge difference, because some of these teas they're so weird and so different that unless you try them, you don't know whether they're going to make you that happy. So online, we try to give descriptions and put pictures and we try to do our best.
Yeah.
But if you just come through this door and try it, there's no question. Do you like it or do you not? And if you like it and you buy it, then go home and make something like it that will keep you happy.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And that's one of the challenges that we have being entirely online is, I've got to be really good on, descriptions of the teas, and I think over time people have gotten to the point where they trust us enough that they can actually blind buy stuff, which is nice. It's nice to get to that perspective or to get to that position, but we just have to do a lot more on the sample side of things, helping out with samples and things.
Really interesting, man. Yeah, no, you hit a spot there. So now with COVID and all, we spend a lot of time just whenever somebody wants to order tea, we ask a load of questions, and based on that we try to narrow our choices and provide something that will work, but it's a different listening exercise these days.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, we get a lot of emails from people that are like, this is, like, hey, I want to try pu'er tea and I've never had it before. So you have to sit there and have a conversation with them and figure out like what other teas they like, and thankfully like
or coffee.
Or coffee, what other beverages they like. Yeah. I mean, thankfully, pu'er tea is so. In my experience, pu'er tea is so versatile. I can usually find something in the scope of what's available in pu'er tea that will probably fit their niche. So, or fit what they're looking for. So
no, you can, and there are also different ways of expressing pu'er tea. So, for example, if you do your cow cha, it'll be very, very pleasant, even to people who would otherwise not drink a raw pu'er. So.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, a lot of it's in just the preparation of it as well. Like the exact same tea prepared a bunch of different ways, like you're saying, like taking shou pu'er tea that might be like overly bitter and like roasting it and then doing it that way could actually create a different experience. And that's another conversation that we like to have with our customers. Like it really doesn't matter. Like if you find a way to brew the tea and you like it, you're doing it. You're doing it right. That's it. Right. That's the correct way to brew it. There may be other ways to brew it, and you actually may like it more the other ways. But yeah, step one: brew it in a way that you like it, and work from there.
And that is good. Yeah. Case in point, Ruben. He likes his pu'er in a certain way, and that is awesome. And I know some people who actually like to over extract it and get some intense bitterness out of it. Well, so that's.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like the longer you're in, well, I mean you know what it's like, being in the tea shops of Munghai. Those guys have been drinking that tea like their entire life, and they just want to push it up a notch, and they've been pushing it up a notch for years, and so they want like the bitterest, strongest tea, and they brew it strong and they brew it long, and
and they might be smoking at the same time, and
they might be. They're definitely smoking. People in it's still to this day, tobacco is the largest one of the largest crops in Yunnan, even more than tea.
Have you ever been to a hospital in Xishuangbanna?
Like a hostel?
Yeah, a hospital.
Oh, a hospital. Lamu's father's a medical doctor, so we've been in a lot of hospitals over there. Oh.
One of my friends got sick in one of our trips, so we ended up at the hospital. What I found interesting culturally was people smoking in the waiting room, and not a little. And I was like, dude, it's a waiting room, and
straight up chain smoking, even in the hospitals.
Many of those guys are really healthy people. So
that's what a lot of our tea farmers. They drink a lot of moonshine, they smoke a lot of tobacco, and they'll probably be living longer than I am, which is, well, I guess it's all about quality, if it's quality alcohol and if it's quality tobacco.
Quality motorcycle.
Do you do the tobacco hookah? You ever give those a try when you're over there?
I've tried it. I don't smoke, and I can't smoke a cigarette. I'm a really poor smoker. Yeah. So I fail at that. I always get offered cigarettes. I have to just light it and let it burn because I can't. I just physically can't.
Yeah. I don't.
I have tried it.
I don't smoke myself, but if they offer me like that, like big huge like tobacco bong thing, that's not too bad. I actually that's interesting. But they smoke it nonstop, and they'll take like a whole cigarette. I mean, you've seen it, but like they'll take a whole cigarette, just like suck the whole cigarette down in like one pull on their like water bong. You're like, that's nuts. That's
Yeah. Well, you have to one day at least. You got to try it. I did. I don't necessarily enjoy it, so I usually go like, no, sorry, boy.
Yeah. So, that's actually one of the first things I had to learn in Chinese. Or I don't smoke. They always look at me so surprised. But actually, sometimes I'll bring American cigarettes just so that I have some with. Like one cigarette will open up like 1,000 doors in China. Like some guy could be coming over like, you can't park here. This isn't the space. I'm like, hey man, don't worry about it. Like, here, just try this. Give him a cigarette. Like, oh yeah, okay.
You give him a cigarette and they'll give you 10. They'll pull out, this guy and this guy and this is from Hunan and this is from Gansu, and they'll give you a bunch. Try Cuban cigars one day. They also enjoy that part.
I have brought cigars. I have brought cigars there to some of them as well.
And do not forget sea cucumbers next time, man.
Sea cucumbers. I'll have to remember that.
The other thing that's kind of cool, man.
Yeah.
If you can get the Red Bull from Thailand.
Thai Red Bull, huh? Okay.
Have you tried?
I mean, I have, yeah, but I've not.
It's also very popular in Yunnan. If you go to the hills and bring a large case of Thai Red Bull.
Interesting. All right, we usually we've been going with like just like Western style candies and things like that. Just sweet sugar stuff and things like that works out pretty nice. Spoolstring's got a good question. Do the locals of Yunnan all drink pu'er, and if so, how good quality? Are Westerners welcomed? I'll answer first, and then Pedro can answer. Yeah, no, not everybody in Yunnan drinks pu'er. In fact, I've found far fewer than you actually think would drink pu'er. They really like green tea, and they like green tea from Hangzhou. They like foreign stuff. If they are drinking pu'er tea, they're generally drinking the stuff that's left over after the foreigners come in or the people come in to buy the tea. Whatever's left over is what they end up drinking for themselves. Westerners are definitely welcome. What are your experiences on? Pedro?
I think that you are right if you speak about Yunnan as a province, because it's massive with what 29 ethnic groups.
Yeah.
I would say that in the hills around Monghai, everybody drinks pu'er.
That's it. Yeah.
And I remember I used to have a friend called Yangtze. He unfortunately passed away, driving accident. But when I met that guy, he had a really humble house, and as time passed by, I saw how he was becoming more wealthy, and he did really well. His pu'er was delicious, and he became a much more affluent individual. He built a concrete house and whatever. The last time I went to see that guy, I just went to hang out with him. I didn't have money to buy his tea; it was way too expensive for me. So I just went to have some barbecue with my buddy.
Yeah.
And we were up in the mountain. He was talking about how things were becoming better economically, and people came with their money and all that stuff. And he said, "But you know what, brother? Who's drinking the best tea that I have? Like you and I. Like I'm not sending that stuff. Like you and I are drinking it." And I believe him. We were drinking some outstanding tea that he kept for family consumption. So I would say that you're spot on. Yunnan is a massive province, and a lot of people will drink different kinds of tea, including, for example, Sichuan Hei Cha in the farther north with Tibetan communities, and lots of green tea. But I would say that around in the hills around Monghai and Yiwu and the likes, bro, also Sumao, people do drink a copious amount of pu'er.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The actual tea producers are brewing a lot of pu'er. It's like some of our early experiences, like I'd be going to like a restaurant or going to somebody's house or something like that, and then I'd be like, "What type of tea is this?" And they're like, "It's tea." I'm like, "Well, where did it come from?" And then they started getting upset that I was asking so many questions, because then they had no idea where the teas actually came from. And so like just some box on the shelf that they just like grab a handful and toss in there and stuff. But yeah, when you're down in Xishuangbanna, you're down in the Monghai, you're down in the mountains and stuff like that. That's all they're getting. They don't really see a reason to bring in other teas and stuff.
Because it's there, and they've been drinking it all. Now they don't necessarily drink it aged. They don't necessarily drink it, Gong Fu style. Yeah, but they drink copious amounts of tea.
They are occasionally. We're starting to see, like within the last 20 years, as like pu'er tea has gotten much more popular, and like these people have made more money and things, and they're recognizing like the value of aging pu'er tea. Where you're starting to see some farmers that have like put a few cakes up on the shelf, like for posterity and stuff. We had one guy we were working with in Manjuan. He bought this garden in like 2003. And he like specifically didn't sell his first production, so he still had like all of those cakes. This 2003 like Manjuan aged Manjuan old tree, man, it's just so good. And I'm like, man, I gotta get some of this. You gotta sell me some of it. And he's just like, well, I'd sell you some of it, but then it was just like, I don't know, something ridiculous, like $2,500 a cake or something. Like, no way, man. Like, come on. But it was so good. Like, it was like this shung pu'er. It was only, this is like 2017ish, 2018ish when we were there. So it's only like 15 or 16 years old at that point in time. But it poured like ink, like black ink. It was just it's just so humid up where
some people pay for that, man.
So good.
You do see people who pay for it. So
no, I know. It's just but it's just like. Whew. you start to think about, like what you'd have to pay, what you'd have to charge to, even to make a profit on like selling, like a cake like that. It's
you
just,
can't charge for that.
Yeah,
not here.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't be able to. So, and that's one of the funny things.
You and I are seen as oddballs over there. We're like, oh, these guys are so cute.
Yeah.
They're gonna buy 100 cakes and.
I know. Yeah, it is funny. They don't really. Well, they're fascinated with the concept of being able to sell tea into the West, but they're always like amazed. They're like, why are you here? Like, how did you learn how to drink tea? I'm like, there's like so surprised, always getting your picture taken and stuff like that. But you know how it is.
But in my opinion, so going back to the hospitality part, dude, kindest people. So
yeah,
it's not uncommon to say, hey, don't go to the hotel, just sleep here in the farm, and they'll kill a chicken and feed you the head or stuff like that. But
yeah.
I would say beautiful people in Yunnan.
Absolutely, yeah. I really enjoy any chance that we've got to work with the minority farmers and stuff like that. They're just just in general, they're just real salt of the earth people. Like the rest of the world could completely cease to exist, and they're going to be sitting there like forever. Like they don't need anything. They've got everything they need. They can produce everything that they need for their entire life within like 200 feet of their home. Like it's all. That's true. It's all there. It's
everything's there, man. Yeah.
Very, 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 very self-sufficient.
Actually, in 2009, I was up in Bambo outside in Nano-san.
Okay.
And I was supposed to go back that evening. I had to take a flight from Jinghong back to Kunming.
Okay.
So I thought I woke up in the morning. I said, later on I'll ask these guys to give me a ride on the motorcycle, and that's that. And it started storming to the point where there's no way you're gonna take a motorcycle ride down the road.
Those are big storms, yeah.
Yeah, they're massive storms. And I said, Yanks, and he said, dude, I think your flight is screwed. And he was right. So all I could do was just lie down and by the fire and drink more tea, and I enjoyed losing my flight. It was it was great.
I missed a flight. We missed a flight. Maybe our first year, second year. I don't know. I just got the week. Just like one complete week off. I don't know. I just put it in the calendar wrong, and so then I went and looked at the tickets, and we realized we were like 6 days past it, and I'm like, oh no, like what are we gonna do? Like I just I don't know. And so I just called the airlines. I'm like, I just totally made a mistake. I don't know what happened. I thought the flight was tomorrow, but I guess it was last week. She's like, okay, great. When do you want to go out? And I'm like, perfect. That was it worked out really well, and only cost us like $50 or something. That was very very nice. But,
I love your choice of local airways these days. You can get Lucky Airlines, and you can get OK Airlines.
Oh, see, I don't do any of the. So we drive everywhere in Yunnan. So like once we get into Kunming, we've got one of those like minivan type things now. Pack all the kids in there. It's got enough room for some. Actually, in the first year, we actually carried back all of our tea, basically like on the whole trip. But if we're only buying like 3 kilos from each farmer, you can do that. So. Like actually, the last mountain we got to, I actually had to take the seats out of the car, and I had to strap the seats onto the top of the car so I could pack the car full of tea. But now we buy so much that we can't even really. We just keep like the best stuff, the stuff that we're only buying like 500 grams of or a kilo of. We keep that in the car because there's no way I'm gonna have somebody ship that. It'll just it'll get destroyed. Spool String asks where Nano Mountain is. Doesn't see any aged Nano or Nano shou pu'er. Humid Star Nano, please. Nano is about really it's about halfway between Jinghong and Munghai. It's basically one of the first
in the middle.
Yeah, one of the first like mountains that you can get to. Like if you fly into Jinghong, which is the big airport in the area, you can even take like a taxi to Nano.
Easiest mountain to get to.
And that's actually, you see a lot of people, a lot of Westerners sourcing from Nanoshan because they can literally just like land in, take a taxi up, source some tea, and they don't even have to spend a night there. They can just boom, 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 get out and source from Nanoshan. So yeah, you'll find look for Nano stuff, Spool String. You can find it. We generally haven't really focused much on Nanoshan just because I feel it actually is fairly well represented in the West. A lot of people have Nano material. We sold a Nano shou for a while. You'd be surprised. You actually probably have had more Nanoshan material than you realize, but it might have been called or labeled something else. But I don't really know about Nano stored tea. I don't know. Do you have any Nano shung or shou on your site right now?
I don't know if they're on the site, but but yes, in the aging room.
In the aging room.
Yeah, I've got some 08, 09 nano and 10 nano.
Nice.
I like it, man. So nano, it's one of these mountains that oftentimes gets a reputation for being pretty strong with really nice GAN.
Yeah.
But sometimes a bit on the stronger side, on the harsher side.
Yeah.
I've found some really nice batches from nano.
Well, it's also a pretty large. It's a relatively large growing area that gets called nano, right?
It's a large growing area, and it's got different ethnic groups. I've seen mostly Lao Hu people and Bulang, Hani people.
Yeah. So sometimes it gets a little tricky because in the West we want to be like we really want to categorize things. We want to put things in boxes. But when you got an area as large as nano, I mean, it's really hard to say like nano like always tastes like this and things. And so
it's true. It's true. There are different villages and oftentimes what they call mountains in China are a bit more like mountain ranges, like Bulangsan. It's not like what do you get like Mount.
It'd be like the Cascades or the Olympics.
It's not freaking Mount Baker. With a single. It's a range.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even like when people say like their tea is from like Ilau, like Ilau is basically saying your tea is from like the Olympics. Well, I mean that could be anywhere of hundreds and hundreds of miles in any direction up and down that range. So that's true.
It is true.
Cool, man. Yeah, we've been going about two hours now. We can probably
roughly that.
You probably got stuff to do, and
I must deliver some stuff, my friend.
Well, we thought the tea might come. We thought the tea might show up.
Yeah, those suckers, man. I'll write about it. I'll put it in my next newsletter.
Yeah,
if anybody wants to hear, just check out our newsletter next week.
Hear your final thoughts.
Bata Bata Cha.
Yeah, and I'll keep experimenting with the Bata Bata Cha. Thanks for sharing that, and appreciate you taking the time to join us and spending some time this afternoon. It's always nice to sit down and have tea with you. So
my pleasure.
Cool. 05t.com. That's your and 05t on Instagram and Twitter and all the stuff like that. So guys, check out what they got. So awesome. All right, thanks again, man. I'll see you.
Thanks to the family. Take it easy.